What causes a city to vanish off a map, only to be discovered countless centuries later in ruins? It may be difficult to envision a metropolis like Washington, Las Vegas, or New York City being abruptly buried under the ground, but this has occurred to innumerable cities in the past, and scientists are only now finding them, along with all the treasures and mysteries they contain hidden within. In this video, we introduce to you fascinating ancient cities discovered by scientists and the mysteries hidden within them that change everything. The following old city has been transformed into a national park that still draws a ton of tourists due to the numerous mysteries surrounding it. This is the Mesa Verde, which is in America. The 80-square-mile Mesa Verde region has produced almost 5,000 archeological artifacts, including 600 cliff houses. The name of this UNESCO World Heritage Site comes from the fact that it is situated on a mesa, or high table or plateau of land. Prepare yourself for some difficult climbing. The cliff dwellings, which were constructed approximately 1100 AD, are the most stunning and mystifying features of Mesa Verde. Why the Puebloens, the locals, moved into the canyons was one of the biggest mysteries. Spruce Tree House, one of the cliff dwellings, was initially constructed in 1210 as what is known as a Puebloen block of flats. It has 130 rooms, each of which can hold 6 to 80 people. It's difficult to believe it was created so long ago because the rocks are so nicely maintained. Today, the kivas, or underground chambers, are open to visitors. Because they were used for political gatherings and religious rituals, they served as the center of the community. Mesa Verde was lost for 700 years after the Puebloens abandoned it, until cowboys searching for runaway livestock came across some of the cliff dwellings in the 1880s. The earliest temple ever discovered was found in Turkey, namely in the city of Göbekli Tepe, which translates to hill with a navel, or potbelly hill. This ancient city is located in southeast Turkey, 16 kilometers or 10 miles northeast of the ancient city of St. Lucia. It was created in 10,000 BCE. German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, who had previously worked on several other diverse archaeological sites in Turkey, made it his major goal after discovering Göbekli Tepe to investigate this remarkable site. The spherical pillars of the temple are 3 meters or 10 feet tall. In addition to carvings of animals including lions, foxes, snakes, and gazelles, each T-shaped monolithic limestone pillar also features abstract figures and symbols. The discovery of bones by archaeologists at the location suggests that the hill was used for feasts and ceremonial sacrifices. Because writing, metal, and pottery weren't invented until much later, the hunter-gatherers who constructed the temple accomplished a remarkable achievement. Additionally, archaeologists before believed that at the time these builders worked, humans hadn't yet gathered in groups to practice organized religion with priests and sacrifices. They were therefore baffled when these Neolithic worshippers managed to get together, cut and carry these 16-ton stone pillars up a hill, and place them in a ring for ceremonial purposes. The temple would still be magnificent even today with the aid of technology. Knives, blades, and projectile points were among the flint-made tools that archaeologists discovered being utilized by these builders. The tools themselves weren't a surprise, though, but the sheer quantity of the instruments and the fact that they were all that were available to build the temple astounded the scientists. The archaeologists were impressed by the temple's very function. They learned that it was a place of pilgrimage for people, some of whom traveled more than 100 miles or 160 kilometers to get there. The finding of Göbekli has led some historians to propose that temples existed before towns. One of the most well-known vanished cities is likely Pompeii. The level of preservation of the objects discovered there, including the human remains, is what is most astonishing about this metropolis. A lot of visitors are also shocked by how quickly this city was destroyed. The people of Pompeii, Italy, had a terribly, extremely bad day on August 24, 79 CE. Unexpectedly, Mount Vesuvius erupted, launching flaming magma into the air and dumping ash and debris on the unwary locals going about their daily lives. Many were helpless, and those who couldn't flee in time were quickly buried alongside the city beneath pumice, stones, and ash layers that might reach a depth of 7 meters, 23 feet. Pompeii went undiscovered for more than 1,000 years until it was discovered in 1592 by a Roman architect who was digging a canal. After that, only a few minor digs were made. No significant work was done again until the Italian archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli was named the excavations director in 1860. Today you can go to Pompeii and see in terrifying and beautiful detail what life was like in really, really old Rome. Scientists are still astounded at how precisely the next city was built, and they have never been able to figure out how the builders accomplished the task. This is the tale of Pumapunku, a city that is actually a huge temple complex in Bolivia, which flourished before the Inca Empire between 300 and 1000 AD. The masonry at Pumapunku must be seen. A terraced earthen mound called Pumapunku was previously covered in massive megalithic blocks, each weighing several tens of tons. The red sandstone and andesite stones were carved with such accuracy that they locked together perfectly without the use of mortar. Even a razor blade cannot glide between the rocks due to the astonishing technical refinement and perfection demonstrated in these stone blocks. Some of these blocks have machine-quality finishing and perfectly drilled holes. This is said to have been accomplished by a society that did not even know that wheels existed and did not yet have a writing system. While the craftsmanship was outstanding, the stones are enormous in size. The biggest of these blocks is estimated to weigh 131 metric tons and measures 25.6 feet long, 17 feet wide, and 3.5 feet thick. Scientists are perplexed by the enormous proportions of the stones and how they were delivered. Chemical testing revealed that the red sandstone stones came from a quarry about 10 kilometers distant, near Lake Titicaca, and were brought up a steep incline. Today, the complex is in total disrepair, and massive pieces of granite can be seen stacked one on top of another. According to scientists, an earthquake that may have been accompanied by a tidal wave from Lake Titicaca destroyed the site. The next place we visit on our tour of extinct ancient towns is fascinating in and of itself. But the story of how it was found is the stuff of great tales. This is Iraq's Kalatga-Darband, a lost city. Before the epic Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander the Great pursued Darius III of Persia through this historic city in 331 BC. During the 1960s, the Rocky Dam on Rainier Pass and the Zagros Mountains in Iraq were both located close to an ancient settlement, according to American spy satellite photos from the Corona satellite program. However, when the information was finally declassified and made public, it was classified because of the circumstances surrounding the finding. The information was accessible to British museum archaeologists. Later, drone imagery of the region showed several sizable limestone blocks and indications of larger structures buried beneath the surface, confirming their conclusions. Political unrest prevented exploration of the area at the time archaeologists were made aware of the site's existence. But as soon as conditions improved, British museum archaeologists promptly entered the area and began digging. Wine presses and destroyed statues that may have formerly represented the gods Persephone and Adonis are examples of the Greco-Roman influences that have been found at the site of the old city. At Kalatga-Darband, excavations turned up a lot of antiquity. Ceramics were located there, suggested that the Seleucids, or the Hellenistic people who ruled after Alexander the Great, founded at least a portion of Galactica Island during the 2nd or 1st centuries BC. Parthians were on their tails after the Seleucids, who may have added further fortress walls to defend against the Romans. In addition to various buildings that the researchers determined to be wine presses, there is a considerable force at the location. Terracotta roof tiles, a favorite of Greco-Roman home builders at the time, are found on 2 other structures. Archaeologists discovered an enormous temple-like building beneath a sizable stone mound near the southern end of the site. Greek godlike statues that had been destroyed were found inside the building. One of the naked males was undoubtedly Adonis, while the seated woman was most likely Persephone, the goddess and reluctant bride of Hades, lord of the underworld. Nearby, an even older town was discovered by archaeologists. The second location's castle most likely originates from the Assyrian era, which lasted between 2400 and 650 BC. The fort's walls were 6 meters or 20 feet thick, and it was probably a mechanism for the Assyrians to regulate how many people passed through the pass. Archaeologists discovered a burial of the same size that contained a Parthian coin. The words, "King of Kings Beneficent, the Just, the Manifest, Friend of the Greeks," are inscribed on the grave. In the years 54 to 53 BC, this king fought the Roman army under Crassus at Caw-High. The next city is another one that has vanished beneath the waves. However, it holds the distinction of being the oldest submerged settlement in existence. It wasn't until the BBC visited the region in 2011 that it became widely known. This is Pavlopetri, the Forgotten City. A 4-hour trip from Athens, or a 2.5-hour drive from Kalamata International Airport, will get you to Pavlopetri in Laconia in the Peloponnese. Researchers found Pavlopetri to be a unique prehistoric residential settlement with several structures, streets, and even town squares. The buildings and streets in Pavlopetri date from the Mycenaean era, which is between 1400 and 1100 BC. Pavlopetri was first inhabited around 2800 BC. Additionally, they found that the city had been buried, most likely as a result of an earthquake of 8 magnitude that occurred approximately 1000 BC. As of 2019, Archaeologists have discovered 15 structures with at least 12 rooms and a sophisticated water management system with canals and water pipes. Although Egypt is known for its pyramids, there are also large pyramids in other places, even if they are in ruins. 2 of them are situated in Sudan, Africa, in Napata and Meroe. These cities were once a part of the Kushite dynasties. Imagine being transported to a land where ancient civilization and timeless wonder collide, where pyramids rise majestically from the sands, bearing witness to a once powerful kingdom that ruled with grace and strength. This is the land of the Kushites, a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago in what is now modern-day Sudan. Their monuments, their art, and their legacy still stand tall today, telling the story of a people who defied the odds and left a lasting impact on the world. But for too long, their story has been overlooked and forgotten. Until now. There were 3 Kushite kingdoms in total. Between 2500 and 1400 BCE, the first inhabited, prospered, and was headquartered in Kerma. The following 2 were in Napata between 1500 and 750 BC, and Meroe between 500 BC and 500 AD. Kush constructed their first pyramids at Napata before expanding to construct even larger ones in Meroe. They were all used as graves for different kings and queens. When Egypt conquered and annexed the Kushite kingdoms, it happened in 300 CE. The cities they created were quickly abandoned and largely forgotten after that. On our journey of ancient towns that have been lost but later discovered, our next stop is in India. We want to show you the lost city of Dwarka, which the all-powerful Lord Krishna founded. Yet despite the emperor's greatness, the city is nowadays underwater. 32 kilometers separate Dwarka from Gujarat's famous Somnath Shiva temple. The significance of the city of Dwarka lies in the fact that, up until the discovery of the submerged city, archaeologists thought Indian civilization to be no older than 3,000 or 6,000 years. However, discoveries from the Gulf of Kambat's submerged bed have now pushed back this age to between 9,000 and 15,000 years ago, millennia before the birth of Christ. Dwarka City is one of the most enigmatic marine towns, though, and it draws archaeologists from all over the world. The Mahabharata epic is also confirmed by it. Research indicates that a calamity completely engulfed the city, about 3,500 years ago, causing it to plunge to the ocean's depths. Archaeologists suggested 3 reasons why it might have been destroyed: a tsunami, an earthquake, or a fast rise in sea level. However, a tsunami or earthquake couldn't have caused the Dwarka buildings to be found in the state they were in. If the issue involved the sea level rising, it is plausible because a comparable occurrence at the same time occurred in Bahrain. We traveled from India to Falsi in Greenland. What exactly would cause the whole populace of a village of fabled warriors to uproot and flee their homes? Thorstein Olafsson, a Viking strongman, established a homestead in Greenland in the year 985, which is when the saga officially began. For approximately 400 years, Thorstein's ancestors lived without incident on a small peninsula of the Hvalsi Fjord, close to modern-day Qaqortoq. The tribe, however, abruptly vanished from the face of the planet when their last recorded event, Sigrid Bjornsdottir and Thorstein Olafsson's wedding on September 14th in the year 1408, was recorded in writing. Their supposed centuries-long isolation from outsiders made a missionary named Hans Poulsen Egede decide to sail for Greenland in 1721. After they arrived, Hans and his colleagues searched for the settlers' offspring for months without success. The church where the wedding took place, which was at the time in ruins, and the remains of 2 large halls and some vacant homes nearby, were the only things they discovered. They vanished without anyone knowing what occurred, although there are various hypotheses about what might have happened, from being slaughtered by the Inuit or the Vikings to simply being abandoned. The following city is one that not even the legendary Alexander could take over, even if the residents' perseverance could not stop it from eventually disintegrating. This is the walled Turkish city of Termessos, which is situated 38 kilometers to the north of contemporary Antalya. Termessos is a well-preserved example of a city that dates back to the 4th century BCE. This ancient city was built on a mountain plateau overlooking the stunning Taurus mountain range at an elevation of 1665 meters above Mount Solomos, making it a unique and breathtaking sight to behold. The city was renowned for its strategic location and was considered impregnable due to its high altitude and rugged terrain. It is one of the nation's best-preserved ancient cities, but it is not your typical Turkish historic city because it is so tough to get. The city was founded by the Pisidian people and later became part of the Kingdom of Pergamum. It was a thriving center of commerce and culture, known for its impressive architecture, stunning theater, and stunningly well-preserved city walls. The city's rich history is reflected in the numerous monuments and artifacts that have been discovered at the site, including columns, sarcophagi, and inscriptions. What can you discover if you travel to Termessos? The entrance to the Artemis Hadrian Temple, the Hadrian Pavilion, the Gymnasium, sarcophagi, Agora Theater, Temple of Zeus, necropolis, and a number of tombs are among the major attractions. Despite the scientists' tireless efforts to learn more about the city, it remains mostly a mystery. Returning to India, we will now visit the next lost but discovered city, Hampi, where it is challenging to distinguish between myth and historical fact. But the modern ruin of the city, which welcomes a number of interested visitors each year, was once the center of an old kingdom, a prosperous temple town that can be found Hampi on the banks of the great Tungabhadra River. There have also been finds in Hampi, including a magnificent lotus palace, a royal stable, and a temple where Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati were married. Even though the majestic structures in Hampi are in ruins today, the expansive Vijayanagara Empire, which ruled from 1336 to 1646 AD, once bustling with activity. There is a mention of the Hindu epic Ramayana. According to legend, it is the site of Kishkinda, the Monkey Kingdom. Hampi still possesses more than 1,600 monuments, including palaces, forts, memorials, buildings, temples, shrines, pellet halls, baths, and gateways, despite later looting. A strange landscape filled with piles of enormous rocks placed precariously over kilometers of undulating ground surrounds the vanished metropolis of Hampi's architectural ruins. Rock climbers, hikers, and other fans of adventure sports flock there. The Virupaksha Temple in Hampi is among the city's oldest buildings. According to scientists, it was built in the 7th century and dedicated to Lord Shiva. During the Vijayanagara Empire, the temple saw significant expansion, and in 1442, a 49-meter tower was added. The Vitala Temple from the 16th century is, nevertheless, the most striking structure at Hampi. It showcases the greatest of Vijayanagara architecture and is the most elaborate monument in the entire region. The main draw of this temple is a magnificent stone chariot that is situated in the courtyard. According to legend, it is modeled after a shrine dedicated to Garuda, a legendary bird that is thought to be Lord Vishnu's chariot. According to legend, the chariot's wheel once turned. When struck with a stick, the intricately carved musical pillars of the Vitala temple can imitate the sounds of 81 various instruments. The following ancient city was buried beneath a hill in Greece. The city, known as Vlokos, was founded in 500 BC, making it roughly 2,500 years old. But archaeologists are still baffled as to how it went for so long without being discovered. Towers, walls, and city gates have been found at the city site, although there is not much that can be seen on the ground below. For this reason, according to analysts, the city is buried beneath. Local experts have used technology to study the astounding discovery using radar and drones. The research is based on work from Dorset University and the University of Gothenburg, Sweden. The tools provided the crew with a new perspective on the location, enabling them to create 3D maps of the fortifications and a thorough layout of the subsurface elements. Understanding the city's limits and recognizing potential residential, commercial, and public areas, as well as industrial regions, was beneficial. The researchers were able to determine the layout of Vlokos and gain insight into the former lives of persons who once resided there. The crew has found a town square and a street grid using its radar technology, demonstrating that Vlokos was a sizable metropolis in its heyday. It was believed that the ancient city was merely a small village on top of a hill before the most recent search. However, the designation has now been changed to full-fledged city. More than 40 hectares are located inside the walls of the city of Lockup. In addition, they discovered antique pottery and coins, which after just 2 weeks of research, allowed them to date the city using some of the oldest artifacts from 500 BC. The majority of Vlokos' prosperity, according to the evidence, occurred between the 4th and 3rd centuries BC, before it was mysteriously abandoned. Maybe those who were impacted by Roman exploitation of the region. The use of radar instruments allows archaeologists to prevent site digging. They'll be able to depart from the location unharmed. Welcome to the ancient city of Tenochtitlan, a marvel of architecture and engineering nestled in the heart of Mexico. This once thriving metropolis was the capital of the Aztec Empire, until it was lost to the sands of time. Imagine walking through the streets of Tenochtitlan, surrounded by towering temples and bustling markets. At its height, the city was home to more than 200,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world. Its impressive temples and palaces were decorated with intricate carvings and paintings, and its markets were filled with exotic goods from throughout the region. One of the most impressive structures in Tenochtitlan was the Great Temple, a massive pyramid dedicated to the Aztec gods. The temple was built in 2 stages, with a smaller pyramid constructed first, and a larger one added on top later. At the top of the pyramid, priests performed sacred rituals and sacrifices to the gods, while the people of the city looked on in awe. This was a city unlike any other, built on an island in the middle of a lake, with causeways connecting it to the mainland. Its intricate canal system was the envy of the world, providing fresh water to its inhabitants and facilitating trade throughout the region. But despite its grandeur, Tenochtitlan was not immune to the ravages of time. The Spanish conquistadors arrived in 1519, led by Hernán Cortés, and laid siege to the city for months. Finally, in August of 1521, they breached the walls and burned the city to the ground. Today, all that remains of Tenochtitlan are the ruins of its temples and palaces, buried beneath the bustling streets of modern-day Mexico City. But the legacy of this lost city lives on, in the stories and traditions of the Mexican people. If you're planning a trip to Mexico, a visit to the ancient ruins of Tenochtitlan is a must-see. You'll be transported back in time to a world of gods and warriors, where the Aztecs ruled the land and built a city that would be remembered for centuries to come. The Richat structure, also known as the Sahara's Eye or the Blue Eye of Africa, is a circular geological formation in Mauritania's Sahara Desert near Udain. It is visible from space and measures over 50 kilometers across. It was first assumed to be an asteroid impact structure due to its great circularity. Then it was assumed to be a volcanic explosion structure, which seems implausible given the lack of a dome of igneous rock or volcanic rock. However, it is currently assumed that the collapse was caused by a very symmetrical and thoroughly worn geological dome. A third group of researchers believes it was formed when God flooded the earth during Noah's time. However, many people today assume that it was caused by erosion-sculpted elevating rock. However, it is still unknown how the Richat structure became nearly round and why the rings are evenly spaced from the center, and new inquiries are being made. Some people are amazed by how closely this edifice resembles Plato's vision of Atlantis. There were 2 of land and 3 of water. Plato described the round shape of Atlantis as an impenetrable mud barrier to voyagers sailing from Hens to the region of Oceania, and he specified a mountain that protected the city from the north, as well as one that embraced a vast plain with an oblong shape in the south. Atlantis is known in Greek as Nessos, or the Atlas Island. So we're talking about a geological structure that could have been Atlantis, right in Africa's Sahara Desert. The giant Sahara Eye is a mysterious, fascinating discovery made by scientists in Africa. What do you guys think? Could this be the location of the lost city Atlantis? Tell us in the comments below and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.